a threat. And one of the things that can't be attacked is your self-custody Bitcoin. And one of the things that can be attacked is the ETF. You can't be exposed to that. That's my view. It's not a good idea. And by the way, that'll hit MSTR too. It'll probably hit other stuff as well. Friends and enemies, welcome back. Canadian Bitcoiners podcast.
Friends and enemies, welcome to the CBP. Want to be better informed? Listen to Len and Joey. Spots is taken care of right off the top. Bull, Bitcoin, and easy DNS. The media is feeding the slop. It doesn't matter what topics discussed. Quality entertainment and information you can trust.
That's being planned or at least discussed. You know, we're not going to allow people to buy
entertainment and information you can trust. Send the guy some value, boost them with some stats. Bitcoin is a scarcity asset. I mean, it's just a fact. Geopolitical, national, down to the local clown.
Friends and enemies, welcome back to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast, where we are balanced like the budget and forked like the chain. I guess we'll talk about all that stuff tonight. My name is Joey. That's Line Buddy. What's going on? How the heck are you?
Do you want to hear more about the fork wars?
You fork your mother if you want to fork.
We've talked a lot about that recently. You know, I don't know.
It's a segment basically on every show, but I mean, until there's really something to talk about as far as like the actual fork, I mean, what are we going to discuss? We're just kind of, you know, postulating on what's possible. I'm not sold on either outcome being more likely than the other.
Or advantageous for you as a Bitcoiner, because I think there's a lot that still has to be done. Like a lot of water has to flow under this bridge before we figure things out. I brought on Noam 2 Wednesdays ago.
2 weeks
for the fork. He wants to, you know, maximize his Bitcoin. And last
what do you do if there's a fork? You keep them both? What are you doing?
No.
Because take the rides in the chat too. Longtime friend of the show. Won't say his name, but he's asking the same thing. Airdrop. Which one do you keep? Do you keep both? What do you do?
Well, depending on if there's going to be a censorship coin, if one that they're going to potentially do a reorg, then that's the one I'm probably not going to want to back up. I don't want to back. I just don't believe in that. Bitcoin's got to be censorship resistant.
Agreed.
A node could do whatever they want, but a network is something different. Having miners reorg and then that's bullshit. So I'm not for that. I would probably just dump those coins and then buy more of the other coin, the Bitcoin. Now, whichever coin keeps the BTC token, that ticker, that's going to be huge.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. If this even happens, I don't even know.
No, me neither. I mean, it's all up in the air right now. Anyway, we'll talk about that. We got a lot to discuss tonight. Budget just came out. I mean, I don't even know where to start. We're going to not waste any time here. The sponsors are the usual trio, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, EasyDNS, the best place for you to do all your domain-related work. Mark has been a friend of ours, friend of the show for a long time, and EasyDNS has been in business for even longer than that, accepting Bitcoin since the mid-2010s, early 2010s, something like that. It's been a while anyway, before it was cool. What can Mark give you? He's got everything you need when it comes to hosting a website, porting a website over. You want to buy one with him, no problem. He's got your domain acquisition needs in his crosshairs. Easy to take care of that. For a couple extra bucks, this is the big thing. Protect your data and your customers' data like it was your own, your clients' data, your mailing list data like it was your own. Get DomainSure, get Easy Mail. Let Mark lose sleep so you don't have to. Taking care of your stuff. Can't beat it. Plus, if you're a Bitcoin enthusiast, a lot of virtual private server options, Bitcoin nodes, Nostr relays, all that good stuff. Although now more and more merchants taking Bitcoin with Square, you may not need a BTC Pay server for much longer. So think about all that. Head over to easydns.com, promo code CBP Media. If you use it, you get 50% off your first round of buys. Can't beat that. We like that. Head over. Who's next?
Stock up. Yeah, stock up in your first buy and make it most worth your while. And Bull Bitcoin, we like them. They're non-custodial. This is what you want in exchange. They do Bitcoin on-chain. They do Lightning. So when fees are high, which they're not right now, you could then take advantage and do with Lightning, but just do on-chain for the time being. Look, for a non-custodial exchange, how many out there offers reoccurring buys, auto buys, limit orders? Not many. And so they do give you the option. So when the price dips, you're able to action it and buy some Bitcoin right away. Want to pay bills? You could do that with Bull Bitcoin. Want to send money to somebody? Well, you could do that. You could send the Bitcoin and eventually will end up in your friend's account as CAD, Canadian dollars. And then a lot of different options. You if you use our referral code below, all your buys and sells forever are going to be a little bit cheaper. So check it out if you're in Canada, Western Europe, Costa Rica, Argentina. Gosh, I think that's it. I don't know. Wherever the fuck they are. It's a lot of places. Hopefully United States soon. We'll see.
Yeah, outstanding stuff. And then obviously we have one more sponsor we'll talk about during everyone's favorite segment, Brampton Man versus Hamilton Man. Let's do the boosts. We'll do a little housekeeping and then we'll get rolling.
Yeah, wartime, 133 sats, and he just writes boost. Thank you.
Great.
God's Deeth, 237 sats, and he says, "Thank you, gentlemen," with a laughing face. This is with respect to the Praveen versus D debate argument. Like it was. I sat at the sidelines and I had a good laugh. I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
When you do the shows, I usually try and like get onto my computer or like head onto YouTube at about an hour, right? So 8 o'clock, 7:55 ish, because I don't want to be up all night. I got to do the editing and stuff and try and get it out the next morning. And anytime I go on and it's 8:20 and you're still going, I know either the conversation has become very technical or demented. And with those two guys, I'm pretty sure it was some mix of the two, though I got to be honest, I didn't listen past the first 45 minutes because they're just like, it's like the same stuff we hear in the group chat with those two guys all the time. There's no point in tuning into the censored version on CBP for me.
It was partially censored, I would say. The R word was thrown around quite a bit. And anyways.
Yeah.
Doug, 525 sats, and he writes in fascinating show. This is the Gnome show I did a couple of weeks ago. He said, but would err on the side of caution with moving all my quote unquote non-Bitcoin airdrop coins to an exchange. Free money is fun and all, but doxing my stack, even a portion of it, is a big risk.
Good point.
Maybe you could use a decentralized exchange in order to do that. And so you're not really doxing anything. You can send it to a different address, and there's options,
Totally.
Hammertown OG. Joey, this is the second time.
My guy, I gotta meet this guy. Where is he at?
In Hammertown. Anyways, 2,500 sats. Big spender. He says the quality of the service and products produced by companies that engage in DEI policies and use LMIA and TFWs is horrific. Our last meaningful act of defiance is to vote with our money, boycott establishments like the CBC and Tim Hortons, especially in Picton and Grand Bend.
Terrible.
Spend your money where the quality is found. That's why I support the CBP.
I love it. I appreciate that, Hammertown OG. If you ever want to get a beer, pint on me sometime. I'll know, Len. I don't think we ever talked about the Grand Bend Tim Hortons story on the show.
No, not in detail.
Do you know the story though? I think we talked about it offline. Owner of those two Tim Hortons, same owner, I think, or related somehow. Not necessarily by blood or anything, but they're following the same strategy. Fired the staff they had when they purchased the store and replaced them with TFWs, I guess. I suppose that's the or LMAs. Excuse me, I should say. So, I think that is true. I practice what I preach, although it does hurt me in the pocketbook a little bit from time to time. Anytime I go downtown in Dundas, I always try and buy something, whether it's like a $4 coffee from Domestique or whatever, bumper sticker. I always buy all my Christmas gifts at the local shops. It's worth it because on the other side of trying to save a few bucks by going to, whatever, Sport Check, you wind up with a crappier neighborhood, crappier community. And I don't think anybody wants that. So I'm totally in agreement with Hammertown OG on that.
Business Cat 3333 sats.
BC.
He writes in, Russia is supplying weapons to our hemisphere, which is forcing the U.S. to respect its neighbors. China is air frying barbecue in low Earth orbit. The U.S. elected a communist to mayor its primary financial hub, and he's doing the face palm emoji. Thank you very much, Business Cat.
I got to go on that show. I love those guys. I've enjoyed being part of their Telegram chat. I joined that shortly after the conference, and it's always pretty good. High signal, and I see some familiar faces in there. Boomer among them. So I recommend people do that. And of course, listen to that show as well. They just had Nick St. Louis on talking about the Orange Party. It's in my queue. I have to listen to that one still. But he's making a push to support Bitcoiner politicians and also maybe start his own or our own, I think he would say, political party of that same stripe at some point here in Canada. So interesting times, man. A lot going on.
That's it for boosts.
Love it. Housekeeping. So last week, as Len mentioned, Dee and Praveen talking new bips, talking forks, talking all this stuff in Bitcoin that you've been seeing on Twitter. Nice to not have two guys who are not interested in hygiene. It looks like, unfortunately, for the Bitcoin debaters, Praveen and Dee, both clean cut and well spoken. Plus a few times the word retard thrown around, apparently, which is great. So we like that. Good conversation. I did a sip and rip again on Sunday. We talked about a lot of stuff, some budget, some other, and a change of heart by me on Universal Basic something. So go listen to that. And then this week, do we have anyone booked this week? Do you want to bring Tuan? Tuan wanted to come on. Do you want to bring Tuan on? I'll do it if you want.
We can. Have we secured it? Is he available?
I'll ask him. We'll see what he's doing. If he's available, we'll do it. If he's not, then we'll talk to him next week. But yeah, we're coming into the Christmas/holiday season here. It's going to be hard to get a lot of guests probably till January, but we'll do our best. It doesn't seem to matter to you guys who we get or if we get nobody. I'm happy to say the show is growing a lot. I just want to make a note that I tweeted out last week, the first 6 months of the new Bull Bitcoin UI, you and I put through about 630,000, 650,000, something like that in volume. That's really because of the quality of the listeners we have. And, I made the thumbnail tonight kind of in jest with every famous person I could think of and crammed them into the thumbnail. We don't need to do that. We have a really great listener base, and, we've become friends with so many of you guys, whether through Discord or Telegram or on Twitter. I try to reply to all kinds of DMs to try and, make people feel like they're part of a community. And I think you guys do the same. And it's been an awesome experience. And I just want to thank you guys for your support and patronage of the sponsors and really just listening to Len and I. It's been fantastic. We really owe you guys. We owe you guys quite a bit.
I have nothing else to add.
Let's go. Let's go.
You want to talk? Okay, let's talk. The Canadian budget. I guess we'll talk about the Bitcoin portion of this. At least that's
sure.
That's tangentially related to the budget, and it's the stablecoin. They've unveiled the Canadian regulations that they want to put forth towards stablecoins. Nothing is groundbreaking here. They want to have the issuer of the stablecoins to be backed with sufficient reserves. Mm-hmm. Make that what you will.
They don't mention the characteristics of the reserves.
Correct. We have had algorithmic stablecoins in the past, so I'm certain that's not going to fall within the definition of sufficient reserves, but maybe somebody could be creative in that. Who knows? But they want to establish redemption policies and put in place management frameworks, such as protecting personal and financial data. And let's be honest, there's a lot of information that's going to be available to be poached. And even if it is, what is the government going to do at that point? The horse has left the barn, and whatever. It is what it is. But the involvement of Canada doesn't just end from there. It's just strictly providing the guidelines. No. There's going to be a little bit more to it. The Bank of Canada will be putting up $10 million over 2 years. Not a lot of money, but still. And this is going to be starting next fiscal year to ensure that everything runs smoothly, followed by an estimated $5 million in annual costs that will be offset from the stablecoin issuers that are going to be regulated under the Retail Payment Activities Act. So essentially, these stablecoin operators are going to be charged a fee, looks like an annual fee, and that's going to be part of that $5 million in annual cost. And as for where the $10 million is coming from, it would have been from remittances that were going to be provided to the government of Canada. So the Bank of Canada would have probably made some sort of profit somehow, and then so that $10 million, instead of going to the government of Canada, it's going to be used for this stablecoin project. The goal of all this is to make stablecoin users have a sense of security when they use
the words you use are great. They got to have a sense of security, not actual security, of course, but a sense of it, just a sense of security. Feel like you're secure.
And then, of course, they want to try modernizing payments as well, and they want to avoid the shit. I've mentioned the stuff that Do Kwon did in the algorithmic stablecoin. I guess they want to avoid the Terra Luna collapse and its associated stablecoin. Really, this is a whole big nothing burger. It's very similar to the Genius Act, but not as defined as that. It's close to it, but not quite.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really do very much of anything.
Why do you think it's a nothing burger? Give me the 30 seconds on why this is not anything worth paying attention to.
If this is in existence versus it not being in existence, I don't think it changes anybody's opinion on the usage of stable coins and how they believe how secure they are. If somebody's going to use a stable coin, I suspect they're going to have a belief it's backed, at least 1-to-1 or something similar to that. Does it need to have legislation to prove that to be the case? It's really just, it doesn't do anything aside from just providing a framework for what companies can do. It's nothing really.
Okay.
It doesn't give people the ability to use it. We're still at the very dawn of having stable coins be issued or be available to Canadians, at least a Canadian version of the stable coin. So it's still a lot of runway here before things could actually play out. But really, does it change anything? No. I'm concerned, though, this might actually lead to some sort of change for how Bitcoin could be used in the future.
Okay.
Because what is being, if they want, right, if they want to have some sort of framework for stablecoins, is it a bridge too far to cross to go to Bitcoin? They're both digital tokens. One is not backed by anything besides energy. The other one's backed by, we presume, dollars. But still, like there is a similarity between the two. You have, it's a network running it. It's a blockchain. There's a few things there that makes it similarities. I'm wondering if this is going to lead to some sort of framework for how Bitcoin is dealt with it within Canada. That would be interesting to see.
The stables won't run on a blockchain. They'll run on some other L2 or something. I don't think they'll be the blockchain maybe not the way we think about it, but the way the public thinks about it. It won't be, because it's inefficient. Doesn't make sense to run stables on that. I think you're right, like 80% of the way, in that, this is going to be something that's pretty cookie cutter around the world. Every country is going to try and do something similar for stables. They'll back it with treasuries or with bonds or whatever, and some mix of gold and other liquid assets, let's say, and we'll figure it out. In Canada, we'll have to put real estate in there too, because it's the only thing we have worth any money. But story for another time. My bigger concern is that the problems this could cause down the line for financial freedom for the average Canadian. I'll give you an example. We've talked on this show before about how if every country has stable coins and all you need is a digital wallet to use them, which stable coin are you going to go with?
The USDT or USDC, I'm guessing. One of those.
Something attached to the US dollar, right? So whatever, we'll leave the branding aside for now, but you're going to go with the US dollar stablecoin. That's sort of table stakes here, okay? That's the first variable that is set in stone. So everybody wants a US dollar stablecoin. What does that mean? It means the vendors have to have a way to accept it, right? They're going to want it too. So what do? They come up with a third-party wallet or some other app where they can just operate entirely in stablecoins and not go back to the Canadian banking rails. Why do they not go back to the Canadian banking rails? Because the only way Canadian banks and other banks make money is scalping on transactions. And if banks want to scalp on transactions at an increased rate as a penalty for using US dollar stablecoins as opposed to Canadian stablecoins, no one's going to want to do it. That's going to cause a problem for the banks. It's going to cause a problem for the government. The second issue there is that if there is a real push to make Canadian stablecoins a standard for retail, for purchases, for bill payments, for whatever, for taxes, there will need to be a significant effort to kibosh anyone or anything that helps people load US dollar stablecoin apps, wallets, whatever, onto their electronic devices, mobile, desktop, you name it. That's significant. And if we go down that road, that's a huge problem, because Bitcoin is in that's the same lane. Okay. If the government is throwing a bowling ball at those pins, Bitcoin is going to get clipped along the way there for sure. For sure. And I don't think that anyone in government can actually explain what a stable coin is, any elected official anyway. So we have some time on this, but I would caution people. I think I kind of mentioned this in passing on our show last week or 2 weeks ago. What is the likelihood that a stable coin is allowed to be transferred or traded for Bitcoin in that environment? It's got to be close to zero, right?
If they want to prevent on-ramps into Bitcoin, absolutely.
That's right. So for me, it's like, man, if you're looking at this and thinking, yeah, I got time to buy Bitcoin or stable coins are no big deal, I would caution against that in a major way. I would say that you're not on the clock, but there's people looking at this now. And like, everyone can kind of see too, in terms of the, excuse me, nothing stops this train thesis for people who are like, well, this isn't necessarily going to happen in Canada or the United States anytime soon, blah, blah, blah. I would say if you look at some of the policy enacted by the Trump administration or the stuff they're trying to put in to stimulate demand because people are running out of money, 50-year mortgages. Before the show, more talk now from the White House about 15-year car loans being available to people if they want them. I mean, you can see the writing on the wall here. And I would just say that there's going to be at some point, and I said this a year ago at the Bitcoin conference, there's going to be a target on your back as a Bitcoiner. And the target's going to come from all sorts of places. It's going to come from your neighbors, your friends. People are going to be jealous. They're not going to like you. They're going to say you got lucky. But I think it's also going to come from the shepherds of the currency. And I get the feeling we're getting closer and closer to this sort of watershed moment here. And the US, for its part, while it is true that the US has not treated samurai devs with any kindness for sure, it seems to me that they are being kind to crypto, stables, and Bitcoin. Coinbase today announcing they have a framework for people who want to launch coins on the platform. Like it seems to me like it's moving toward a more free, if a little bit controlled and a little bit gated, a more free ecosystem there than anywhere else in the world. And it feels to me like people at the White House know what I just said is true, that everyone wants a dollar if they have a choice between the dollar and something else. And so let's do whatever it takes to make the dollar available and make it so that anyone who tries to stop the dollar from being available in their jurisdiction looks nuts. It looks more like a whimper than it does an iron fist. And I think they've achieved that. We'll see what happens in Canada and in Europe, obviously, for sure, over the next year, but it's coming.
Europe is interesting because I wanted to make a point is that Mark Carney, what was his previous position before he became the
Bank of England, sorry. Yeah.
Right. And then he was so the Bank of England today made a proposition that individuals are going to be capped at 20,000 pounds
stablecoin pounds.
20,000 pounds, and then also businesses 10 million pounds.
So even if they can track everything, they still want to cap it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
So you have our prime minister, who used to be the governor of that bank that is proposing these changes. And so there's a connection between the two. And he seems to be traveling a lot to Europe and keeping or establishing new connections with Europe. So it's probably not too far a stretch to see the Bank of Canada propose the same type of restriction here. And if they do that, say the equivalent, say 30,000 Canadian in terms of stable coins and 15 million in terms of businesses that they could have in stablecoin, then is it even further from that type of scenario that they say you can only hold this amount of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Like, is it possible? I can probably not. Maybe, I don't know. I mean,
the thing is, like,
if they're going to limit how much fucking stablecoin I own, like, what?
The question is, why are they limiting it? Right? Why do you think they're limiting it?
I would love to know the answer because I think you know.
I know the answer.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm curious to know what the answer would be.
I think it's because they absolutely have to stimulate demand in the economy.
I don't think it's control.
No, I think this is a close kin of control, but it's not outright demanding certain things. People, you remember we talked on this show about one of the dangers of stablecoins back in like 2021. That one of them was negative interest rates on savings. What does that do? It forces you to spend. And I think what they want is that forced spending. They don't want people just holding stuff that appreciates in value or holding stuff that's not helping grow an economy that all over the world is having trouble stimulating demand. Everywhere there is a demand measured, stimulating demand is a priority because it's a weakness right now.
Okay. So
if you allow people to hold and hold and hold and presumably collect interest on those stable coins, what happens? They don't want this. They don't want it. It doesn't do them any good. It's the same as having cash under your bed. They're not going to force you to spend it with negative interest rates, but they are going to cap how much you can hold. And they want you to spend. Bitcoin, I think, if anything, will go the same direction via unrealized gains over a certain cap, over a certain threshold. I suspect this is in the Overton window for these guys now. For two reasons, both of which we talked about on the show before. And people need to take this seriously. The boomers are dying. They're going to transfer money as much as they can to their kids. And the kids are in a position where they want to have a cushion. But The government wants that money spent. We've heard people like Christian Freeland talk about this supercharged savings for the economy that we need to unlock. Okay, this is what they're talking about. That's number one. Number two, they don't want, number two, the reason that this is going to be the case is because no one younger than us has any money. And so what are they going to do? They're going to Mamdani me at every turn. They're going to vote to take away my house, my gains, my tax efficient accounts, my whatever. How do you do that? You vote for stuff like unrealized gains on assets. You vote for stuff like unrealized gains over a certain threshold. So you anger only some of your voter base instead of all of your Bitcoin voter base, whatever, right? And the thing we forget as Bitcoiners, because we're in this ecosystem that's like a tight-knit echo chamber, is nobody has Bitcoin. Nobody. And so
nobody owns Bitcoin proper, or nobody, like
the number of people who are involved at all in Bitcoin is basically zero.
It's got to be a fraction of a percent.
The number of people you know who have enough Bitcoin to be upset about a tax change to the way held Bitcoin is assessed is zero. It's me, it's you, it's a few people in the chat. That's it. There's no political consequence for taxing this stuff. The only difficulty is, do you get capital flight? Do you get brain drain? And is this enforceable? Because you have to get it right if you take a swing at this, right? And so this is another people will vote you out of what you've earned because they haven't earned it themselves. And I do believe this is going to happen at some point. Like this is the greatest threat to Bitcoiners and the Citadel and all this stuff is democracy, because no one is going to vote for you to stay rich while they're eating sliced bread. It ain't going to happen. So this is a danger. And, we're kind of far afield, I should say, but this should help you kind of find your footing in terms of where we are in the development curve of all this stuff. This is coming. It's who was in the comments there? OG Hammertown or whatever. I think Hammertown OG said the financial capital of the world, former financial capital of the world, probably just elected a communist, dyed in the wool communist who's never had a job. He's never had a job, Len. All he had to do was say he's going to tax, the rich, white neighborhoods, whatever he said. I'm going to give away buses and grocery stores. Like, that's all it takes.
That could also be said with the president of the United States.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. But like, what I'm saying is there's going to be, and actually the guys on All In made fun of Friedberg for this last year when he said it during the Trump election. They're making their yearly predictions. Everybody, including me, thought this is the end of the far left, end of quasi-communism, new age communism, communist chic. It's over. And Friedberg nailed it. He fucking nailed it. Said, you guys think this is the end of communism? I think it's the beginning. There's going to be a sweeping dominance from candidates who embrace this ideology. And we're starting to see it. And Trump has had no choice, by the way, but to at least kind of get on board. I'm sending out checks. I'm sending out this. I'm like,
And what can you do about all this?
Nothing.
I mean, right. You could get angry. You could try to do political action if you don't agree with it. In the end, I suspect it's going to be maybe the wrong thing to say, but I'll say it. It's going to be a lot of wasted energy. Just because things happen sometimes and there's nothing in individual. Maybe if you get a lot of people on board, maybe you could stop it. But you know what? You're a Bitcoiner. You're in Bitcoin. You know what to do. You know how to do it, and just execute. And that's it. It's if you want more information about it, feel free to talk to me on the side. I'll be happy to discuss. But that's the reality of it. Like, there's lots of different options available. Do what you gotta do, man. And it's a beautiful thing. It's permissionless. It's borderless. You own it. You may be taxed on it, but you're taxed on everything else. So just be ready to be taxed on it. That's all.
That'll be the stance for sure. That'll be the stance.
What could you do?
Yeah.
Cashew. Talk about them.
Sure.
Briefly.
Yeah.
It's a custodial layer that's built on Bitcoin, and it's supposed to solve the scalability problem with Bitcoin and make it easier and quicker transactions, similar to Lightning, but in a different way. This way, it's custodial versus Lightning, which is, you could be it non-custodial. We learned that there's a vulnerability for versions prior to 0.18.1 in Cashew, and the exploit allowed for potential data to be stored as the user never paid the fee that depended on the witness size. So that means that all tokens with the witness that are too large are now being rejected, but before they weren't. And so they were able to plug in whatever bullshit they wanted onto into this. It was kind of funny. I mean, it's a quick story because Callie is one of the people behind Cashew, and he's very much a proponent of the core stance of just allowing things to play out the way they are. And if something goes into the Bitcoin blockchain, well, people paid for it, and so be it. But in this case, you didn't want spam to be included. I guess it's because the user didn't pay for that particular fee. So it's an actual bug, but still there's a sense of irony here in that he was upset that spam was being included in this. People were storing JPEGs, but he doesn't mind that in Bitcoin. So anybody out there that's using Cashew, beware, just upgrade to 0.18.1. And I wouldn't really trust this. This is a custodial federation model. I'll use something else that's not.
Yeah, that's the key word, right? Custodial. It's
that's why I Bitcoin, man.
The federation model has been I don't want to say hotly debated, but people have had this concern with these models since the beginning of like Fedimint and other stuff like that. It's always been a lingering issue. It's not going to change. So, you take your trade-offs and decide what works for you, but there's always risk with stuff like this.
Well, there's a layer of trust a level of trust that you have to have when you deal with this. You have to trust that when it is you want to do a redemption, that you're able to get it and they're not going to rug pull you. So that's all it is. It's just, that's Bitcoin takes away that trust factor.
It should
verify everything. The only time there's a trust factor is when you purchased Bitcoin. When you purchase Bitcoin, when I go and give money to an exchange and it comes back to me in Bitcoin, I can't do a verification that it's going to be done. I have to trust that they're going to send me to Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin's been very good. They haven't rugged anybody, but that's the only that right now, if you really want to break it down, that's really, for me at least, that's the only chain that's trust. Everything else I could verify myself, but that portion, I have to have some trust, and I can't get around that. And at least I'm putting trust in a group of folks that I believe in. So that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Len. You've always got a good kind of sense for these things. If I look back at the things we've talked about on the show, things we've disagreed on, especially on the technical side, you always have a pretty good handle on whether or not this is going to be a problem in the future.
I don't think Cashew is going to be a problem. It's just the idea of that you're giving some trust.
It's riskier.
I don't like that.
Maybe I should reframe it. I think, you've always been on the side of things are riskier than the way they are presented a lot of the time in Bitcoin. And this is a good example.
I think the best way I could frame it is that I trust myself the most.
Yeah.
So with those keys, like I could control and I could trust myself. And if I could take everybody else except, friends and family, then fuck it. I'm happy.
If you take everyone out instead of friends and enemies, you could do
enemies, they could fuck right off. Let's talk about more trust, because 3 years ago, this week we have FTX that collapsed, and think of all the people that trusted. Yeah.
Anniversary episode. Okay, great.
Yeah, and that if you look at
Bankman-Fried in the thumbnail, didn't even think about that.
I guess a lot of time has passed between now and then, but we got to look back, because when FTX collapsed that week, the price of Bitcoin, there was a couple of drastic red candles. It drove down the price from around 20-ish K to 15K almost immediately. And I can understand why people were dumping Bitcoin, and people didn't have much faith in Bitcoin at the time, because look, this was the third largest exchange by many metrics. Either Binance and Coinbase were number 1 and 2. I think that was the order 1 and 2. Either way,
they were huge. They were huge, and also they were very public. That was another sort of thing that they had going for them. You remember Carolyn Ellison talking about how they'd buy all the what was the token they were going to buy? Was it their own token? They were going to buy all the
FTT tokens?
The FTT. I'll buy all your FTT at $22 or something like that. Remember, she was tweeting out to people who were saying they're going to sell it. Yeah.
And still to this day, that token is being traded. It's a fraction of the price, but still, it's incredible.
That's what I got you for your birthday. I got you 100,000 FTTs. Yeah, it was like $8. Yeah. I'm like the David St. Ange of cryptocurrencies. I just buy defunct, bankrupt cryptos and hand them out.
Hopefully, I got a Terra Luna as well. And remember CZ at one point was thinking about bailing out FTX at $4 billion. That was the
Wow, that is a crazy callback. And he looked at the books and decided not to.
Yes, he decided, no, man, this is just too much. So yeah,
He went to jail and decided the FTX books were too much.
He put his lawyers to work on other things right after looking at those books. Boys, you got to keep me out of jail. At least make it a short stay in Club Fed.
Oh God.
He also was the one that triggered the immediate bank run.
Yeah.
He remember there was 500 million worth of FTT that Binance decided to sell, and it started a huge bank run, and eventually a few days later ended up with FTX being tits up. FTX, just to give some context here, was valued at $32 billion in early 2022, and that's 2022 dollars. So what is that now? Like a 1.8 trillion?
It's minimum
at least. And then they also had large investors. Remember, we had Canada's very own Ontario Teachers Pension Plan.
OTP,
pony up some.
And then Quebec invested in 2 rounds at FTX.
Good for them.
Yeah,
Good
got
for
burned
them.
twice. Not once, but twice they failed to do their due diligence on Sammy Boy.
The Miami Heat Arena had its naming rights with FTX. It was called the FTX Arena. 19-year deal, $135 million. Major League Baseball umpires had under sleeve.
I remember.
University of Berkeley's football stadium was named FTX Field. This shit went on, and they were spending money left, right, and center. Yeah. So more than anything, look, people, their largest exchange, they had naming rights with a number of different things. It looked like everything was rosy. This is a good reason why you don't leave your Bitcoin on any exchange. It may look good today, but tomorrow it could be a totally different scenario. Take your Bitcoin off, trust yourself with your keys, sleep well at night.
What is there to say about this? It hasn't been said already. This is we beat this horse to death over the years. Is he I think Boomer and Julian Figueroa have a bet that he gets out of prison before his sentence is up. I think it's like 1 million sats or something like that.
Yes.
What is it? What is the bet, Boomer? Put it in the chat there and I'll mention it. Do you think he's going to serve his full sentence? I mean, Trump seems to be in a pardoning mood, though his crimes are pretty significant. So be curious.
15 years. I'm going with the under.
Under. Okay.
Yeah,
I think I'd probably take the under too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's already tweeting from jail, or someone's tweeting.
Somebody's doing it on behalf. Yeah. Of him.
So if that's okay, no one seems to be mad about that. So whatever.
It's just somebody taking hold of his account. It doesn't really change his, he's still stuck in behind bars. Either way, Do Kwon is another one. Remember this guy spawned those shitcoins, the Terra Luna Classic, the Terra Luna stablecoin, or not so stable stablecoin. By the way, that's trading. It's still being traded as stablecoin at 0.7 of a penny. Incredibly, it's still out there.
It's worth. Who's going to zero first? Torstar or FTT?
I'm going with Torstar. Yeah, I could see that going to like literally zero, and the other one's still having, a trillionth of a cent. It's gonna have some market cap of like $50. But anyways, for Do Kwon, crime doesn't pay, especially for doing shitcoining, because he is going to do some time in the United States. U.S. prosecutors are asking him to do 12 years. And it looks like he may get a fraction of that if all goes as planned. This may be the proverbial slap on the wrist. And once his time is done in the U.S., it's not done, because he will be extradited to South Korea, where he may serve an extra 10 to 15 years, because he fucked over their citizens as well. And they want to make sure that justice is served over there. But I'm going to use this as a segue to a different topic that's adjacent to it, because we had the Samurai developer, Keon Rodriguez, the mixing service, right? The verdict is in. He has to pay up $250,000, 5 years in jail. Mm-hmm. And this all comes back from this past July. He pleaded guilty to money transmitting charges. And remember, not too long ago, this guy was thumbing his nose at Uncle Sam. He was tweeting out there, putting out remarks about having Russian people use the service, and so they could bypass.
Idiot. It just completely stupid. Stupid. And then you find out that they were stashing your UTXOs or your UTXO data. They were stashing it. They were keeping it. That was against that guy turned out to be a fraud. He did.
In a different timeline, I would love to know how much of a jail sentence and fine he'd have to pay if he didn't go out and say bullshit against the U.S. government. If he would just remain quiet, get served, so would it still be a $250,000 fine and a 5-year in jail?
That's a good question.
I'd love to know, but
I'm not sure.
I guess I'll have to go 88 miles per hour and figure this shit out myself. You ever hear about this guy, Roman Novak? I'm not sure if many people heard of him before.
No, I haven't.
Well, I haven't really heard about him much this week, but Jameson Lopp informed us about him, and he's been on talking about all these type of people. This guy apparently was murdered following a ransomware plot that went sideways. And this guy, Novak, was a crypto millionaire, a Russian crypto millionaire. And he and his wife, Anna, they lived a very luxurious lifestyle. They flaunted expensive cars and flying on private jets. Maybe they're going to be going to COP30. I'll be talking about that in a little bit. But they've been doing all this on social media. So they've been doing this in the fucking open and trying to monetize that at the same time. And early October, they went out to meet some quote-unquote unidentified investors, and this was going to be near the UAE and Oman border, specifically in the Hatta area within the UAE. And he was dropped off by his driver, and he exited that, entered a second car to be taken to the final location. This sounds like a fucking movie. And that's the last time this guy and his wife were seen. Roman sent a message to his contact saying he was stranded in the mountains on the Oman border and desperately needed $200,000. Shortly thereafter, dismembered bodies of both he and his wife were found. And the guy lived a shady life. He founded a platform called Fintopio, and it promised fast crypto transfers. It was involved with Web3 and all that shit, DeFi, and lots of money was invested in it, including investors from Russia, China, and the Middle East. And then reportedly he fled with $500 million. So he made a lot of enemies, a lot of probably very powerful enemies. And as a result, now he's gone. He was actually convicted in 2020, November, for large-scale fraud, and he was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but he was granted parole and moved to the UAE. So more than anything, if you have Bitcoin, if you have a lot of Bitcoin, good for you. I wouldn't go out there flaunting it. Right? The best thing you could do is live a very quiet lifestyle. And you know what? You go fly under the radar. Don't be like these motherfuckers. Don't be showing off that you're flying on private jets and renting and buying expensive cars. It is not fucking worth it, because you have to have a team of bodyguards around you 24/7. And even then, who knows? Maybe those bodyguards might be compromised. Just fucking live a good and quiet life. That's the way to do it as a fucking Bitcoiner. Remember that guy that bought that buy Bitcoin sign?
Yeah.
Remember that? He apparently took the fucking subway in New York to meet up with the buy Bitcoin guy that had and he was just a regular dude, bought the piece of paper and went back in the subway and went home. Just a regular dude. You would have never known that guy had a crap load of Bitcoin. It's just, that's what you got to be. That fucking guy.
I don't know what the number is for Bitcoin price, but it's different. That number is different all over the world in terms of when you should go dark as a Bitcoiner. This guy was in Europe, I think, right?
He was in Russia and in UAE.
Okay, UAE. Like I would say the Bitcoin price number there where you should go dark is pretty low. Might be a little higher in places like the States or Canada, but unfortunately, even in those places, it's getting lower all the time. I would recommend people, if you're a Bitcoiner, we talk all the time about how you have to have a security setup that makes it so your Bitcoin's not easily accessible. It doesn't sound like that would have helped this guy very much, unfortunately. But I think the point still stands that you're going to wind up with a lot of people thinking you have wealth that was unearned, undeserved, and maybe also as part of a zero-sum way of thinking about money in society over the next 10 years. So have a setup that makes sense. Don't make it easy to get at your Bitcoin. Make it, multi-jurisdictional, multi-stop, multi-sig, multi-whatever. Nobody should be able to come to your house, apartment, place of residence, whatever, and get your Bitcoin. Should be impossible. There's no excuse for that at this point. It's been it was 3,000 something when we started doing the show, or whatever it was. And now it's 100,000. And if you didn't set something up along the way, I mean, the best time to do it is now, but you should have done it already. And so think about that for yourself and for your family.
Here, Ledger is going to be, well, at least they're thinking about doing an IPO. Ledger.
I'm a buyer day one. Sign me up.
So
What's the cost? I'll put it next to my Coinbase bags.
Apparently they have a lot of revenue and they want to make sure that they capitalize on this revenue at this particular time. And so there's no definitive timeline or if indeed they're going to be going ahead with it. But man, Ledger, could you imagine that? Like a signing device, a company that just makes signing devices and shitty ones at that, they're going to fucking IPO. Like, what a fucking world with it. This is
Ledger. There's a story like earlier this week about how somebody, I guess, bought a Ledger Nano S or X or something, or maybe one of the Stacks devices, and MBK was tweeting about it. How he left the thing basically, he left it, locked up, cold storage, whatever, for a year or 2 years, and went back to it, and the thing wouldn't hold a charge. So he couldn't like access the screen. The screen was like all dinged up or bent out of shape or something. It just wasn't working anymore. Like the quality of the parts was no good. And so now the guy's like, well, if I didn't have my seed phrase, I'd be cooked. Right. I say some negative things about cold cards from time to time. I had a cold card out here earlier. I don't know where I put it, but I say some negative things about cold cards all the time. Yeah. See, we spend too much time messing with these gadgets. Anyway, the thing I'll say to people is that you can love or hate the cold card, but guess what? When you plug it in, the screen just works. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You don't have to worry about issues with busted pixels or touch screens not working. Or it's like a very, what it is, Len? It's the equivalent of a car without all the mechanical, the electrical nonsense that causes failures in other larger systems in a car. And, I don't know if MBK would find that to be a compliment or not, but I will say that his devices just have the lowest sort of threshold for working and avoiding failure due to, sort of unforeseen or stupid circumstances around parts or manufacturing or whatever. It's just good stuff. Everything they make is just going to work forever. I mean, maybe not forever, but you get the idea.
And this is a test one, in case anyone was wondering what the fuck am I doing. You can even see by seed phrase. There's to get into it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just a test. So there's nothing on this. But if anyone wants to steal it from me, be my guest. You got fucking nothing as a result. It's just. I was
messing around today with the multi-sig stuff on the queue. I was going to update it, and I thought to myself, I want to try like an expanded multi-sig setup just to see how difficult it is to execute on like a transaction side. It's actually really easy. I'm surprised how easy all this stuff is with a queue. Every time I try something new, because I see like a sessions video in my YouTube algo or something, I'm like, oh, I should try this. And it's easy. It takes like half an hour. Like it takes nothing. It takes no time at all. And people they're sleeping on them still somehow.
I'm a big fan of the 25th word rather than multi-sig, but do whatever you want in order to
whatever. Yeah.
There's
passphrase,
number of different ways.
That's a passphrase.
Big fan of that. The best thing about the passphrase, man, it could be a fucking long one, right? It doesn't have to be one of the words that are on the BIP 39, is it? Whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah,
it could be like it could be like a phrase.
It can be anything you want. It could be something I don't know. What would you use?
The Blue Jays lost in Game 7.
World Series to who? Yeah, what game did they lose in? What,
and if you change one character from capital to lowercase or lowercase, it changes everything.
Yep.
So like there's so many different ways you could do this. And I like that. But
yeah,
teach their own, right? There's
totally. Bitcoin's beautiful. You got to learn it though.
Use it the way it should be. Don't trust these exchanges. Also, I wouldn't suggest lending it out, at least to Lava. I'm not sure if you heard about the story.
Yeah, I did. This is an ugly one. They seem to have some kind of really social media heavy push over the last week or so, and then just nuked from orbit by people who are saying this weird funds movement on the platform.
Well, the weird funds, I'm just going to lay the table here for people wondering what the fuck we're talking about. It's Lava is a business that's giving Bitcoiners out there an opportunity to borrow against their Bitcoin 5%. So rather than selling your Bitcoin and being subjected to capital gains tax, you could just borrow against it and then pay it back later on. And that way you don't have to pay the tax and you get access to your Bitcoin, and potentially it's a win-win. And on top of this borrowing, they were going to be offering up, or they are offering up, a earnings card where you could get paid up to 5% in Bitcoin when making buys. So that's another way you could use their products and increase your stack. Lava, they say that they have raised $200 million to make this all a reality. And they've been doing this for the past 6 months or so. I think since March, they've been really going out there and starting to lay the groundwork for their product. And so the problem was revealed that it looks like the self-custody Bitcoin that they have, well, who knows what's going on, because somebody that did use their service, they realized the Bitcoin they sent to Lava was moved to a different address without the customer's consent. Yeah. It was an unknown address. So there's questions if indeed that they are custodying the Bitcoin. Furthermore, because they operate on US soil, they need to have money transmission licenses, and they don't seem to, at least they don't present that they have it. No. People like Jack Mallers out there has been sending the war drum saying, look, this is what we have here at Strike. And he showed the website. He's like, here's what Block has. He showed their website, and they have fuckloads worth of money transmission licensing that from various states. And
it's so state forth. By state. Yeah, it's the thing. Yeah.
And since they operate on US soil, they're also no KYC. That could be a real mess. So, you're doing a US company doing money transmission without licensing, doing no KYC. They may not be custodying the Bitcoin. This could be a potential mess out there. If anybody has used a Lava service, certainly I would recommend you may want to just close out your loan, take the hit, and just wait it out, because this could be really bad. You could lose your coin as a result of all it. Once the regulators get a hold of them, if the way things could play out, they could put them through the ringers.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else for me to add there. You're playing with fire. These guys, even if they're on the up and up as far as character, the likelihood that the government continues to allow them to operate is basically zero. So why would you leave your money with that platform?
That's a great question. And I think people they see a nice tweet, a good social media post was
a big push. A lot of big names talking about it all of a sudden. Yep.
Some fancy art and AI and all that. Like, I'm going to use this. I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. I'd rather but as somebody pointed out, they're just using the all-time high as making the lows. Take the ride is saying that. It's timing sucks if you're a customer of them, but who the hell knows what the all-time high is going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, I see Fisk in the chat too saying they're seeding the SBR. Taking the Bitcoin. Yeah, maybe unintentionally, but you never know. You're right.
Yeah. Joey, we have a lot to talk about in the back half. I suggest we just end the Bitcoin side now and just transition to the other side of the
problem. Show. We'll see you on the other side. If you're on audio, if you're on video, or with us live on Twitter, hang in. We're not going anywhere. We're going to go talk about the latest and greatest over in notable news stories. So we'll see you on the other side.
And don't lend your Bitcoin.